What is up, guys? FallenRedZeo here. So we just got back from seeing Avengers Endgame, so we're going to be doing a review. We'll do a spoiler-free first half and then spoilers afterwards, and I'll let you know when we switch over to it. So for spoiler-free first part, so we're going to start out, is the movie good? Of course. It's an Avengers movie, part of the Marvel Universe, MCU and everything. Of course the movie is good. Is it the best movie? For me, I'd probably say no. We'll get into it like with ratings and stuff and more of that in a little bit. I definitely say it's not the best, but I did really enjoy it. Of course, tomorrow we're going to be seeing it again, so I'll be able to see it again and form more of an opinion on it and everything. But I feel as of right now, I think I probably liked Infinity War better. But that's just my personal opinion. But I still really enjoyed the movie and thought it was really good and everything. I assume you thought it was good.
It was.
Yeah,
okay.
I know you have an issue with some stuff, but we'll get into that. He's being all weird again as usual. So is it worth seeing? Of course, in theaters is what I meant. It's definitely worth seeing because there is stuff that can be spoiled. There is some big stuff that goes on, of course, towards the end and stuff in this movie. So if you don't want it to be spoiled, you do need to see it in theaters. And as I've heard many people say, see it as soon as possible because I don't think the whole spoiler-free stuff for people will last very long. And then I know a lot of showings have been selling out, and then theaters have been adding more time stuff, so I'm sure you'll be able to get in at some point, even if it has to be like within the next week or so. I think there will be time for you to get in to go see it, but I definitely would go see it. So some of the aspects of the movies, we'll go through a couple things. So like the actors and acting and stuff, of course, everyone did an amazing job. I didn't really see anybody that stuck out or anything. Everybody was, perfectly their normal characters. Of course, we've seen them in a bunch of movies in the past, so no one really new to like look at or anything. Everyone was pretty much the same, obviously, with new and different twisted roles and stuff that we'll get to in spoilers. But for the acting, it was fine. For visuals, it was pretty good. Same quality as usual, especially for a big blockbuster movie. But as I was talking to my brother, I had some issues during, we'll say like one of the fight scenes. But that's just like I thought things looked a little sloppy and everything, but of course it's a CGI fight, so it's hard to make it look exactly perfect and everything.
He's wrong. It was just fine.
Yeah, he said it was fine. To me, it bothered me at the point. The story I thought was pretty good because obviously we know what happened after Infinity War, so it's just trying to figure out how to correct that. And so it borrows a lot of sci-fi story type stuff and brings it in and everything. I will say the movie is a very emotional movie. So you have all the range of emotions from happy to sad to angry to laughing. I don't know what to say besides that. So you have a wide range of emotions. You will feel like it deserves it a lot and stuff, especially if you've been like us and I'm sure everyone else out there. If you've been with these movies the past 11 years, you have a connection to these characters and these roles and stuff. And so the stuff they had to deal with in this movie and everything, you kind of feel a lot. One of the last things I want to hit on is the end credit scene. I'm obviously not going to say what it is, but I will say there's not really anything to watch after the movie ends. I will, I guess, say they show all the actors and stuff names, which they usually do, so all the actors and stuff. And then when it gets to the main characters, they show the character and then shows their autograph or something for our main six and stuff, whatever the actual main characters are. But then there's no real end credit scenes. There's just something that happens, which we'll talk about in the spoilers, just what it is. So if you don't want to wait around, since it is a 3-hour movie, if you don't want to wait around those extra, a couple minutes, you don't have to. You're not going to really miss anything out worth seeing or hearing or whatever in that. So don't worry about that. So that brings us to our ratings for this. So there's obviously we're going to do our rating from 1 to 10. 10 being the absolute best, which probably will never be anything, and of course 1 the worst. So for my rating, I would probably have to go with, I'd probably say an 8 maybe. I think I gave Infinity War a 9 because I do like it a lot and thought it was a really good movie and action-packed and everything. This didn't have as much stuff, and like I said, or I don't know if I said it, but I felt bored at a lot of parts throughout the movie until closer to the end. But I know why I was bored though, because it's there for a reason. So I would have to drop it down and would maybe even go as low as a 7, but I don't think it's that low of a grade. So I'm going to go with 8. What about you?
I'd say it was an 8.5 until the last segment of the film, and then it dropped to a negative.
Yeah. He didn't like the ending of the movie, which of course we're going to get into spoilers, which will happen right now. So again, that's the non-spoiler section. So if obviously you haven't seen the movie, and I don't know why you'd be watching this though, but that was our spoiler-free first part. So we are going to get into spoilers right now. Now into spoilers. So, of course, after Infinity War, we had Thanos with the snap. So half of all the world's, or I guess galaxy, whatever's population, all disappeared. So we have all our Avengers character trying to live with what happened after that, and the loss, of course, all the other Avengers and their friends and family and all that sort of stuff. So, like, the movie opens up with Hawkeye and his family, and then what was happening, what he was doing during the snap. So obviously, like, from the trailer and stuff, we saw him teaching his daughter how to shoot a bow and arrow and stuff, and then he turns around, she's gone, and then turns around and the rest of his family's all gone, and so that kind of leads him into his storyline. So then the rest of the Avengers, though, that we saw in the Infinity War and stuff, are back at the Avengers headquarters, I guess is what you'd call it. And of course we saw Tony and Nebula up in space, and I would say the Milano, but I think it has a different name now, because they were left on Titan after the fight with Thanos and stuff, and all the other, like, Guardians of the Galaxies disappeared, and Spider-Man and Doctor Strange and everything. So they're stuck up in space and not able to get home in time and stuff. So that kind of is where our main part of the story is, where they're stuck up in there, and that says the whole thing from the trailer that they're running out of oxygen and not going to make it and everything. So Tony, like, does the whole message for Pepper and everything, and then, like, I guess dies is what I assumed he was supposedly doing. But then he eventually gets woken up by a bright light in his face, and he opens it up, and it's Captain Marvel there. And so then it shows Captain Marvel bringing that ship back down to Earth at the Avengers headquarters. So I assume if you saw Captain Marvel, the end credit scene was her appearing at the Avengers headquarters after they were looking at the little device Nick Fury had. I thought that would have been a scene in this movie, but it wasn't. So if you didn't see that, it kind of left out some stuff, like how is she around. But I somewhat feel that she appeared there first from that scene, and then they told her about Tony and stuff, and maybe knew where he was or something, and then she went up and got him and brought him back, because it seemed like they already knew about each other and everything. So now that we have all our Avengers that are still left and everything alive together, they decide to go after Thanos, and now they have Captain Marvel on their team to help them out and everything. So they found the corner on this planet that they call the Garden or whatever, as Nebula tells them. And so they go after Thanos. They find him, of course, with the help of Captain Marvel and stuff. They're able to hold him down and everything. And of course, he's like completely burned and everything. And it explains that he tried to destroy, or he did destroy the Infinity Stones with the power of the gauntlet and stuff. And when that happened, it kind of like burned him along with the use of the snap in the first place that also burned him up. So just completely almost like burned him in half almost. And so with that, they were able to defeat him. They cut the gauntlet off so he wouldn't have any more powers, even though he said they destroyed the stone stuff. They find that out afterwards.
They legitimately cut it off by cutting
Thor
his hand off.
Thor came in with Stormbreaker and cut his hand off because they were trying to pull the gauntlet off again, like in Infinity War. But he cut the hand off, and then they see the gauntlet and has no stones, and he tells them that. And then Thor takes Stormbreaker and just cuts his head off and completely kills Thanos, and kind of ends that whole thing there. And then we get a 5-year jump, and so it jumps obviously 5 years in the future. We see, how people are trying to get along, and the whole scene of Captain America and like the meeting and stuff, the
support group.
Yeah, the support group. And so then that goes into I guess back to San Francisco, where we are back to Ant-Man, or at least the van that Ant-Man had the quantum realm or quantum machine into. That of course he was inside when the snap happened that we saw in Ant-Man and Wasp. And a mouse is walking around in the van, and it's on like the control for the quantum machine, and it pushes buttons and stuff, and it shoots Ant-Man back out. And so he's now back in our world, but of course he missed the snap, and then it's been 5 years later, but as he mentions, it was 5 hours or something for him. So he doesn't seem like he was in there that long, but of course he comes out, doesn't know what happened. Of course, he does go to see his daughter, or see if they're still alive or anything, and his daughter is still alive, and he sees her. Of course, she's older, and a teenager now and everything, so he gets to see that. But then he shows up at the Avengers headquarters, and then that starts the whole thing, because he starts telling that he thinks there's something that can go on with this whole quantum, like time jumping and stuff, and where you can go back in time and everything, kind of like time travel, which is pretty much the whole premise of our whole movie thing. That they think it's weird, but they talk to Tony and stuff, Stark, because they go visit his home with his family and stuff. And Tony does, with the way things have happened to him in the past, he's like, that's not going to happen. We're not risking this and everything. We're not going to lose anybody else. But then he's working on a project, probably like he is, where it's something that said to him, but he's working on it behind the scenes, and it comes out that it would be successful and everything. So with that, he makes the whole quantum suits, I guess, that they wear. So he makes the quantum suits, and again, these little look like watches almost, like on their hands, that have the whole control and stuff for them to go into the quantum realm. And they build a whole machine, which they have Hulk as well. They get him, which he's now Hulk, but I guess Dr. Hulk or something they call him. I don't know what the exact...
I think it's
Professor Hulk, but he's, looks like Hulk. He's big, green and everything, but he has Bruce's mind and stuff. And he mentioned it was a thing he worked on or whatever to be able to control this and stuff. So he's big as the Hulk and has...
No, he's like middle ground between Bruce and Hulk. Like, he's not as big as Hulk, but he's bigger than Bruce.
Yeah, but he's big and green and everything, but he can talk, just like Bruce, and is smart and everything. And so they bring him in and stuff, and again, they test the whole quantum stuff and time jumping and going back in time and stuff. And of course, they have a whole funny thing when they send Ant-Man and stuff, and he comes back as a baby, as a kid, as an old man, and all different sorts of stuff. They have that fun with that. But they build a machine that will actually transport them in time, and so that's when they come up with the plan with, again, all the remaining Avengers, besides Captain Marvel, because she goes back off again to protect the other planets and stuff, and or galaxies and everything. So that gives us into our separation of all the characters into our separate little parts, going after all of the Infinity Stones so that they can gather them back in time before Thanos can get them, and then so that way he can't do the snap and stuff, and then they get them all, and of course do the snap and everything themselves and bring all the characters back. So then that gives us our characters. So we got character separation. So we have a group that went off to New York, which got sent back to 2012, I think it was, for the first Avengers movie, so the fight at New York and stuff with the Chitauri and Loki as the leader and stuff. So it was Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, and Ant-Man, which he wasn't in the original thing, but for some reason he was in there, I guess, just to get the stuff. And they all went there because they knew that at this point in time there were 3 Infinity Stones all in New York at one time. So we had, of course, the Mind Stone and Loki's scepter thing that he always uses. The Tesseract was there as well, which has the Space Stone, and then the Time Stone was in the Sanctum Sanctorum with the Ancient One, I think was her name, who was the protector of the New York Sanctum there. So Hulk went off to see her to get the stone from her, and then Iron Man and Captain America, with the use of Ant-Man stuff, get the scepter and the Tesseract, which we have this whole thing as well of stuff that went on. Of course, it's supposed to be after the Avengers, after they captured Loki and stuff, what happened with the use of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents and everything, which it was kind of fun to see that whole stuff.
So what confused me about that is there's a scene where Captain America gets on an elevator.
Yeah, very similar to Winter Soldier, where
I was gonna say
it's.
I think they just re-spliced the Steve Rogers head, because it looked exactly like the exact same stuff from
Well, he was wearing the suit from the Avengers movie. So, I mean, they could have completely replaced him out, or they could have just brought all those actors back and just refilmed the scene. But obviously this was set after the first Avengers, not Captain America Civil War. Of course, where then we got the whole revelation of a bunch of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents being Hydra and stuff. And so Captain America was trying to get the scepter that they had in a case, and they were he was trying to go for it, and they were starting to question him. Guys were going for their guns and stuff, and he leans over to Sitwell, isn't it, the guy, and says Hail Hydra, whispers that to him, and then the guy allows him to take it and everything. But then of course he runs into himself, but the true Captain America thinks it's Loki, because earlier Loki transformed or whatever into Captain America, so he thought it was just Loki looking like him and stuff. So they have a whole fight and everything, which was kind of fun and everything. That was good to see. And then
Loki got out of custody because Ant-Man shrank down, and slid into that time period's Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Slid into his arc reactor in his chest and pulled a piece.
Disabled it, so he had pretty much like a heart attack or something.
Yeah.
To distract everyone so they could grab the case with the Tesseract in it. And then it got kicked and everything.
Ant-Man, like, kicked it while he was tiny, which it still has the impact at his full size. And it slid across the floor, and Loki saw it.
Well, the case opened up, and the Tesseract fell out.
No. Loki saw it slide across, and the Tony Stark that is from the real...
He was hiding as an agent or something.
He was in, like, a SWAT uniform. He picked it up and started out of the building. But they had sent the Hulk from the first movie down the stairs, which made him angry.
Yeah, so he came charging out of the door, which hit Tony, and then the case opened. The Tesseract slid to Loki, and then he picked it up and disappeared. And so Loki was lost, and the Tesseract was lost. So they messed up at that point, which then later on, the real Hulk ended up getting the stone from the Ancient One because he had said that Doctor Strange had, seen all of these versions of what the events could be, and ended up handing over the stone. She's like, well, if he handed it over, that means you were sent back here and stuff for a reason. So she gives him the time stone, so he gets that. And then, so they have the the staff still, and so they have two of the stones, so they still have to figure out how to get the Tesseract. And so they end up coming up with a plan to jump back again to 1970, but to do that they needed more Pym particles, and so they knew they could jump back at that point because Hank Pym was working for I guess S.H.I.E.L.D. would be what it was at that point, and then also the Tesseract would have been there because they would have found it in the ice at that point. And so Tony goes after the Tesseract, which he then runs across his dad and has this whole thing with his dad and stuff from that point. And then Captain America goes after the Pym particles, which he gets Hank Pym out of the office stuff, goes in, gets it, and then comes across Peggy Carter and stuff and sees her and everything.
Which what I did like in the scene with Hank Pym was the original Ant-Man helmet was sitting there on the desk.
His original stuff like that and everything. So now we've got those three stones from the New York group. Then the next one is the group that went to Morag, which was War Machine and Nebula, which is the planet from the first Guardians of the Galaxy that Star-Lord was at the very opening, where he got the Power Stone for the first time in the little ball and stuff. And of course it's first opening scene, so we see him dancing around and everything. So they are there and waiting for him to show up, and they end up following him and of course knocking him out before he gets to the door to get into the little room that has the Power Stone ball thing. And so they go in, Nebula grabs it, burns up her hand and everything. But while they're on the planet as well, they notice something going on with Thanos. At that point in time, the Thanos, the Nebula, and the Gamora are up in the big giant spaceship or whatever, and a transmission comes across Nebula's little eye thing, and it shows them from the current time, or those two from the current time, saying they're going after the Infinity Stones and everything. And so that sets this whole thing that Thanos is something's going on here. So they start going more into Nebula's memory and stuff, the whole connection between the current one of our version and then the one from that point in time. And they're just, it's all confusing to me at least, but they just go into her stuff and are able to track and hear more conversation stuff and know they're going after Infinity Stones. And he's like, well, if they're going after it, and they see some different version stuff, like him, Thanos, getting his head cut off, so he knows that he was successful and that he got all the stones and everything, so he knows something is up. And again, it's kind of convoluted and stuff, but they end up switching out the Nebulas. But War Machine ends up getting the Power Stone and does the transfer back into our current time or whatever, but Nebula doesn't get transferred, and then she ends up getting caught and captured by Thanos and everything, and they end up switching out the Nebulas and stuff, and so she switched her headpiece and stuff because she looks a little bit different. And so they send back the bad Nebula in place of the, I guess, good one and stuff, and so then that changes up the whole time, which we'll get into here in a second. So next up, we then go to Vormir, which has Hawkeye and Black Widow sent to it. And again, same planet that we saw in the last one with the Soul Stone and the whole Red Skull character and everything, where Thanos sacrificed Gamora to be able to get the stone. And so they go there, and of course they go up, see the Red Skull, and he's like, we have to be sacrificed. So they're sitting there okay, who's going to sacrifice stuff? And so then they start fighting each other of who's going to be the one to sacrifice. And Black Widow ends up being the one that actually ends up doing it, which of course they were each wanting to do it, so she got what she wanted and everything, so she sacrificed herself, and that gave Hawkeye the gemstone, which I forgot to mention Hawkeye and the whole Ronin stuff. So obviously after the whole snap and in that 5 years, he turned into this Ronin character, which is just like a rogue character and stuff. He becomes like a ninja and everything, and he was going around killing like drug cartel people, mafia members, stuff like that. He was killing them off, which isn't like the best thing, especially after half the world's been killed. But he went off and did that, and then that's when Black Widow finds him in Japan, or in Tokyo, and brings him back and everything. And then our last group is the Asgard set, which is off to get the Reality Stone, because Thor mentions that Jane Foster had the Reality Stone like stuff inside of her when she was there in Asgard in Thor 2, The Dark World. And so this time it's Thor and Rocket, which is a funny thing about Thor in this movie. So at this point, after the 5-year gap, and he, cut Thanos' head off, at this point, he's living in New Asgard, which is, I don't know the exact place. I want to say somewhere on, like, the UK-ish area, but I don't know the exact location. But all of the Asgardians that survived Thanos, the half that was saved or spared or whatever from the beginning of Infinity War, are all living there now, which we have Valkyrie and Korg and Meek were still there, and of course Thor himself. But he's, in the 5 years has let himself go because he's, regrets all this stuff, and so he's put on weight, so he has a big stomach and gut the whole time. And so that's just something fun to see, because Thor was always sad, super cut, ripped, and abs and everything, but this time he now has a gut the whole movie, which was really funny to see. So they're in Asgard, and so they're kind of hiding around, because obviously you can't see your past self and stuff because it'll mess up the whole timeline and everything. So they're trying to sneak around to get into the room that Jane Foster is in, and Thor ends up seeing his mom, and she ends up catching him and stuff, and they talk, and she's like, I was raised by witches and stuff, I know you're not my son and everything, and you're from the future, and she knows pretty much some of the stuff that's going on. So he gets to have another conversation with his mom before she ends up dying, and like she does in Thor Dark World. But Rocket ends up sneaking into the room with Jane Foster, which we see Natalie Portman again. Not sure if she was actually there for those scenes, or if they just reused scenes from the Thor Dark World, but she was in the credits, so I don't know for sure if that was her or not. But we see Rocket end up sticking this thing into her that extracts the ether. The ether, the Reality Stone, I guess. And so they get that, and so they all come back into the Avengers headquarters, and then
before they came back, before they left Asgard, Thor threw his hand out and he pulled back Mjolnir.
Pulled back Mjolnir, or whatever the thing is, because at that point it wasn't destroyed by Hela as in Thor Ragnarok. So he brought that back with him. So they all come back into the Avengers headquarters, and then they all put the stones into a homemade like Iron Man version of the Infinity Gauntlet, and they do the snap. But by that point, the bad Nebula, posing as the good Nebula, came back. And she ended up doing this whole thing where, like, messing with the switches and stuff, and it pulled in the Thanos version, or the past time for Thanos, and Gamora, and of course she was already there, the bad Nebula, and everything, and the good one as well. So they all get pulled in, and then they do the snap, and it, something happens, and it comes back, and they're starting to realize that more people are out. Hawkeye's phone goes off, and it's his wife, and he answers it, and she's back and stuff. So they're like, we did it, we brought everyone back and everything.
And to clarify, it was Hulk that did the snap. Yeah, Hulk. Because he said it was mainly gamma radiation.
Yeah, because if you remember, like, Thanos, when he did it, like, all this, like, light and stuff of all the different stone colors went up into his arms and body and stuff, and then after he snapped it, like, completely burnt, his arm and everything, like I had said. And so that pretty much happened to Hulk, but because he's the Hulk and, his powers and stuff, he was able to withstand it, and then the whole, gamma radiation and stuff, too.
Although, after seeing that scene, I wonder if, because Thor is the one who wanted to do it.
Yeah, because he wanted to make up for not cutting off
because
Thanos'
of his
head.
Guilt of not killing Thanos when he had the chance. But after seeing what it did to Hulk, I almost wonder if it wouldn't have been better for Thor to do it. Because in Infinity War, Thor got burned up pretty well and then came right back from it.
Yeah, with his powers and stuff. But so they did the snap successfully, and it brought all the people back. And then, of course, then the whole place gets blown up by the Thanos ship and stuff, I can never remember the place or the ship name. But anyway, so they attack, and then come down. Thanos is, like, I'm just going to sit here and wait, and sends off Nebula. So yeah, he sends her off to go try and find the Infinity Gauntlet because they can still use it and everything. And so he's like, I'm going to sit here and wait for them. And so, of course, the whole place is blown up. So they've, like, fallen multiple stories and stuff. So people, I think it was, like, Rocket and War Machine and Hulk and stuff got, like, really far down, and place was starting to flood in with water and everything. And then, of course, Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor were higher up and stuff. So they start to go out to go after Thanos and stuff to fight with him. And then we also have Hawkeye as well, who has the Infinity Gauntlet, or is near it and stuff. And he hears a noise and does the whole scene from the trailer and stuff. And, of course, we see that it's the Outriders, yeah. And so he has to run away from them and stuff and try and get the gauntlet away. He ends up getting stopped by the bad Nebula, but then the good Nebula and Gamora, which the good Nebula helped turn and stuff by telling her what happened in the future and stuff, they end up shooting the bad Nebula and help, save the day and stuff. So we come back out. Now we have the big old battle. Thanos, again, against those three, and which is one of the cool parts we get to see. So obviously it's just all going back and forth. And Thanos is pretty much kicking all three of their butts, even though we have, Thor with his, newer powers and stuff, Iron Man with what looked to be a new suit with some additional stuff going on, and and Cap back again. But we see a cool scene where Thor now has Stormbreaker and Mjolnir, and he's fighting around with both of them and stuff. He ends up losing them, though, by Thanos. And then we see Mjolnir come flying around at one point, and Captain America has it, and he's now using it and stuff. So he's, using the thunder power, I guess you'd say thunder powers and stuff, shooting electricity at Thanos and fighting with it and stuff. And Thor makes the comment, I always knew he was worthy, which we saw in Age of Ultron. Yeah, him able to actually move it a little and stuff. So I like how they brought that back into it as well, and he was actually able to use
I'm not gonna lie, when you see it get picked up, you didn't see a hand or anything, but when it left the ground, I originally thought that Beta Ray Bill had made his appearance, and then it was just Steve Rogers.
Yeah, I thought that would have been cool because obviously he is one of the Thor characters. We saw his part in Ragnarok, his face on the building and stuff. So it's like he could be in the world, but I mean, it's a weird place to introduce him, but it still would have been really cool. But yeah, it was just Captain America, which was still pretty cool that he got to use that, and that, I guess, pretty much became his weapon by the end of the movie and everything. So he ends up fighting back and everything, but Thanos is still able to destroy him and ends up breaking his shield into, like, pretty much cutting it into half and everything. And so as all the Avenger characters are getting pretty much just beat at this point, Cap's standing there, and all of a sudden he hears a thing coming in, like his radio, like in his ear or whatever, and it sounds like Sam Wilson, so Falcon, and then he says it again, says something about...
He says, look to your left.
Doesn't he say something like, me and Bucky or something?
Or no, he says, on your left.
Yeah, he does the whole on your left thing, but I thought he mentioned, like, me and
no, he doesn't say
whatever. But anyway, so he says that, and then you start to see a Doctor Strange portal open, and out walks Black Panther, Shuri, and Okoye, and you can see Wakanda in the background and stuff. So they all walk out and everything.
And that's when Falcon flies out through that exact same
they all come out and stuff. And then
portal.
You see a bunch of different of the Doctor Strange portals opening, and we got all sorts of characters that are now back again. So of course all the characters we lost are now back, and then we got additional warriors. So we have all of the Wakandan people, we have the Asgardians back, we have, like, I don't know what they call them, the Doctor Strange, like, magician people.
Wong's back.
Yeah, well, he was in the last one movie too. But yeah, so all these characters start to come back and all flood into the battlefield. Of course, though, I forgot to say at this point, though, a bunch of Thanos' people, so a bunch of, I think, the Outriders had appeared. I want to say probably Chitauri. There were all sorts of new monsters we haven't seen before.
It was just break-offs of the Chitauri.
Yeah, and then the Black Order was back again. And so they all are there with this big, huge, giant army. But, of course, then, again, all those characters came back on the Avengers side. So we get this big, huge, giant battle. Oh, and I forgot all the Guardians are back. Spider-Man's back. Of course, Doctor Strange, as I mentioned, and stuff. So all of our characters are back again to save today. We have this big, huge, giant battle, which was probably what I said, like how I said a lot of the movie was boring. All that time travel parts, to me, was super boring. But like I said, I know why. Because, I had to be sneaky. Couldn't really change much of the future and stuff. So we're not going to have big fight scenes at that point. But but it was just kind of slow moving for me. I really enjoyed it all, but it's just real slow. But then here we got the big fight scene, which picked up the action and made it really enjoyable and stuff. See all these characters back in fighting, and we get to see a team up at one point of all the women characters, so they all like come in and then attack and stuff, which is really cool to see that all together. And they end up fighting, and they're trying to, I think, send the Infinity Gauntlet back in through the quantum realm, because they end up having the van back or whatever, because it was at the Avengers headquarters with the quantum machine in the back. And so they're trying to send the Infinity Gauntlet back, but it ends up the machine, or the machine and vehicle end up getting destroyed and stuff. Oh, and we also had Captain Marvel make her reappearance. So again, they're all fighting stuff. Stuff's not going perfectly well, but then all of a sudden out of the sky comes Captain Marvel, and she completely destroys Thanos' ship, and then she comes down and fights with Thanos, which was the thing with Captain Marvel. She wasn't in the movie hardly. She was there at the beginning and then made the appearance here at the end, and so we didn't see her a whole lot to use all her powers and stuff. And then she did fight with Thanos, but she didn't overpower him too much. I mean, she was able to fight back against him, but he still was able to beat her up as well, and he ended up beating her, I guess, because we kind of saw the end of her fighting and stuff by taking out the power gem, and then like he squeezed onto it and then punched her, and it kind of sent her flying off, and that was the last part we saw of her. So after he beat up Captain Marvel, Iron Man comes flying in and is trying to pull the glove off again, and Thanos punches him off and everything, then goes to do the snap, and he does it and nothing happens, and he turns the gauntlet and realizes all of the gems are gone, are missing, from the gauntlet and stuff. And then it goes back to Iron Man, and he has all the gems like forming up into, I guess, like his nano suit technology or whatever, forming a gauntlet onto his hand with all the gems,
which, since the gauntlet that Thanos had on was the Iron Man one had created, I'm assuming they both had the nanotechnology, because it was able to grow and shrink.
Yeah, because it was like a normal size, but when Hulk put it on, it like grew around his hand and stuff.
So I assume that when he just reached over, the nanotech switched it over to his gauntlet.
So Iron Man had it, and he did the whole... Didn't he say like, I am Iron Man or something like that? Made that comment, and then he snapped. And then the whole thing happened, and then all of the Thanos people started to disappear. So Thanos himself... all of his, I guess,
the army, Black Order, the Chitauri,
all of his character, all the people with him, all started to turn to dust, like what happened to the Avengers and stuff. So they brought everyone back. They defeated Thanos and saved the day. And so that leads us then to the ending of our movie, which was how do we get rid of the Infinity Stones, which is the part when Bro started to have some issues with the movie. So since they were gonna again take them back, because that was part of the whole thing, to get them, use it, bring everyone back, and then go back in time and put them back where they were, so we don't mess with time.
But before that, after Thanos and everybody disappeared, that pretty much burnt Tony, and that led to Tony's death.
I forgot about... I almost completely forgot. I would have got to it, but I almost forgot about that. So after he did that and all those people died, Tony ends up dying, unfortunately, which, like I told him, I knew either him or Captain America was going to end up dying in the movie, just because that's the way things were going. Of course, I didn't know which one, but we ended up getting Tony's death, and of course we have Spider-Man there, kind of like doing the opposite role for Tony that he was for him and stuff, whatever. And then Pepper is there and stuff, because she had come in as well in her rescue suit, or that's what it's called, right?
Yeah, rescue, and that's what Tony had been building that their daughter had.
Yeah, found. He built her the outfit and stuff, an Iron Man suit. And so they're there, and he ends up dying and stuff, so they end up having a funeral for him and everything, and all the people are there, which we'll go ahead and just say that his funeral, it was showing like each of the characters was kind of going importance like to Tony and stuff, I would say. So like, of course, the first two people were Pepper and his daughter, and then it was Happy and Rhodey, and then Spider-Man and Aunt May, and then Captain America and all the
Captain America, Falcon, and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, we're all there, and it's going back, and then so Hawkeye's family, and then just little groupings of people and stuff. Then as we go by, we see some random kid that we've never seen before and stuff, which Bro ended up guessing who it was.
It was Harley. I think his last name's Keene from Iron Man 3.
Yeah, the kid from Iron Man 3 that Tony ends up giving all the tech to and stuff there at the end of the movie and stuff, that helps him in the little town and stuff. Of course,
that was weird seeing him, because he was just kind of standing there by himself, but kind of out of focus. There were two more characters behind him, and one of them was Maria Hill.
Yeah, there was like Shield.
Yeah, it was like Shield agents.
But yeah, so it shows him, and again, it's that kid from Iron Man 3. So of course we have the time already spent, and then the 5-year jump. So he's now an older teenage kid and stuff. And so it's cool to see him again. You didn't point him out or focus on him too much, but it's like, who's that random kid? And then yeah, we have like the Shield and stuff, and then Captain Marvel standing on the steps at their house, and then in walks Nick Fury on the porch and stuff. So he's back now too as well. So we got all the people back again. So then we have the Infinity Stone situation, and so it's decided that Captain America, which has the whole quantum suit on thing and time stuff, and they built like a little miniature version of their whole like time jump thing that they used at the headquarters, and so Hulk's there controlling that, and then we have Bucky and Falcon there as well, like, because they're with Captain America and stuff. So he decides that he's going to take them back. And so they say, it's going to be however many years for him, but it's going to be 5 seconds for us. So he goes, they count to 5, and then Hulk presses the buttons again, and Captain America doesn't show back up. And he's like, he went past his, turn off, because as it shows going in through Quantum Realm, there's different like little tunnels and stuff, and they're like, he overshot it and stuff. They wait a few 4 seconds, and then nothing still yet, but then they end up looking over, and there's somebody sitting on like a bench and stuff, and so Falcon and Bucky start walking towards him, and then Bucky nods for like Falcon to go walk up, and is Captain Steve Rogers as an old man. And so he went back in time, and he, as we see a little bit later, he went back to be with Peggy Carter and stuff, and so he got to have a life and family with her and everything. So this is why I guess would be his current day time. So he's a really old man and stuff, and he ends up passing the shield over to Falcon. So we get the passing of the, I guess, Captain America mantle. We'll have to see what happens in like either the Bucky and Winter Soldier, or no, Falcon and Winter Soldier show, or in the next movie or something, if he's going to wear the Captain America style Falcon suit, or what exactly is going to happen with that. But Cap gives him the shield, so he gets to become not Bucky, which I wish they would have at least had Bucky one time as his version of Captain America, but it looks like they're going straight to the Falcon version, which is cool and everything. And it was, of course, cool seeing him pass it along the shield and everything and stuff, and how happy he was and stuff, because he got to live a life and have a family and everything. So that was fun to see as well, but he's now an old man, so I'm pretty sure he won't be coming back again in any movies unless it's some sort of like past thing. And then one of the last things I want to mention is, so we got to see Thor back again in New Asgard, and he passes off the mantle of, I guess, being the king or whatever of the place to Valkyrie. So she's now the ruler of New Asgard and stuff. And I was hoping he would give her the Thor's hand, or Mjolnir, again, I can never say the name, or Stormbreaker or something, so she would become like the new Thor, like the female Thor that there is the Jane Foster version, but obviously they don't have Jane Foster anymore. So I thought that was going to be what happened, but it wasn't. All it did was show his gut, because it started like zoomed down, like I thought he was going to be holding it, but it showed his fat gut that he had in the movie for some reason. And then we get to see the Guardians getting ready to go back out doing whatever the Guardians do, and Thor is now with them, so he has now joined their group. So it's all of them except for Gamora, because she's still gone, and we assume that when the whole snap thing happened, she ended up disappearing as well, because since she came in with Thanos and all his group
as one of the time displaced ones.
I assume she disappeared that, because we never see her die or anything, and never, like, I don't think we see her like turn to dust or anything. At least I can remember. And so she, is gone at that point stuff. So now we got Thor with them. So I guess in the next Guardians of the Galaxy movie, we're going to have Thor in the group, which I think is fun and cool, because I like the whole thing between Peter Quill and Thor and stuff. Of course, we got more of that of who's the captain of the ship and everything. That was a whole fun scene and stuff. So he is now in with their group. So it'll be fun, like I said, to see the next Guardians of the Galaxy movie, to see that whole connection go on. So one of the only things missing from the movie that I don't know if they'll end up fixing at some point, is that Vision never appeared back again. But I mean, of course, he wasn't really a character that I guess could be snapped, since he wasn't really a living creature. So I think even if he was alive at that point, he wouldn't have died maybe. But because he was made up of the Mind Stone, and then made by Tony and Bruce and everything, and with the whole time jump and stuff, he didn't get to come back. But I don't know if they're going to end up finding a way to bring him back. Because
I assume they would, because they're doing
the Vision,
WandaVision,
whatever the stupid name's called. So he's going to be back, but again, that could have been set before now and stuff. I don't really know for sure. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do for Vision to come back and stuff. But yeah, he was the only character really missing from the entire like movie and stuff of all the characters. But I think that's going to be it for the entire movie. That leads us into the credits. So as I mentioned before, we then had just the credits stuff where again showed each of the characters, and then went into like the main characters and showed their autograph stuff. And then we had the black screen credits, and then at the very end where it usually shows an end credit scene, we did not have anything. A thing just popped up, said Marvel Studios, and all you do is hear a hammering sound, like hammering metal. And so when I heard it, I immediately thought, like, I've heard that sound before, and like what connection it could be to the Marvel universe. And the main thing popped in my head was the Tony building the Iron Man suit in the cave in the first Iron Man movie, because it sounds like him doing the whole hammering thing on it, you know, forming the armor and stuff of it. So that's what we thought it was. If you have a different opinion, let us know in the comments and stuff what think it was, because supposedly there's different
theories going around
theories
right
of
now.
what it was. But yeah, to me it just sounded just like Tony hammering the metal.
Maybe it's his daughter. Maybe she's building.
Could be too as well. I mean, it could just be, like I said, just sounds like that, which fits because this is the end of this whole 11-year set is now in. So now everything else is going to be leading into a next, I assume, big event that they're going to lead into. I don't know why they could be, unless it's going to do something with, like, if they possibly bring in Galactus, because I think they may now have those rights again for the Fantastic Four. Could bring in Galactus.
Yeah, because they own Fox, so they have
that he's like another big like planet destroying type thing, or they could go into some sort of like, I don't know if I want to say the Eternals, but I don't think that's it. But like the big giant like space guy and stuff. I don't know. There's all sorts of stuff they could do.
They could do Annihilus, since Guardians are kind of associated with the Avengers now.
So they have all sorts of stuff that I said. But like I said, this is the end. Pretty much, this is the end of our main, I guess, 6 characters that we saw in the first Avengers movie. Like I said, they're still living. We're still going to see them, I assume, in movies, especially Avengers. They'll probably be there, maybe not in fights and stuff. Like, I'm sure Hulk will still be around, like, working on scientific stuff. So that was, I feel, a nice fitting in, you know, the first thing of the first Iron Man movie, kicking all this stuff off, and we get the this, you know, sound and stuff reminiscing back to that is what I just think the whole thing was. So that's going to be it for our movie review. If you enjoyed, let us know in the comments down below. Let me know what you thought about the movie. If you thought it was good, of course, I assume everyone will think the movie's good. But just let me know your opinion of the movie in the comments down below. Of course, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you want to see more of our videos. But I want to thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.